I remember standing there, just outside the church. The music had started. People were already seated. And inside, my brother was waiting to marry the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. My hands were shaking. But not from fear. From rage. See. I had nothing left to lose. They'd already taken everything. My home. My business. My future. And now, they were walking down the aisle to dance on the grave of what used to be my life. So I walked in. Straight down the center aisle. Past the gasps, the whispers, the stares. I looked my brother in the eye. Then I turned to her. She was dressed in white, like a queen about to ascend her throne. And I smiled. That kind of smile you give when the final piece of a long, brutal chess game finally clicks into place. You forgot one thing, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. They froze. You forgot. I always finish what I start. And then. I handed him the small black envelope. Enjoy the honeymoon, I whispered. I turned around, and walked out. But the silence behind me. That said everything. Now. I know what you're thinking. What the hell happened? Why would my own brother marry my fiancée? Why did I lose everything? And what the hell was in that envelope? Well, to understand all that, you have to go back. Back to where it all began. Before the betrayal. Before the fall. Before I learned what family really means. And trust me. It gets worse before it gets better. Way worse. It started like all tragedies do. With everything going right. I had just turned 30. My business was finally taking off. I ran a boutique renovation company, nothing fancy, but we had loyal clients, steady referrals, and a crew that felt like family. I was engaged to the kind of woman you plan your whole future around. Her name was Nadia. She was smart. Gorgeous. The kind of presence that could light up a room without even trying. We met at a charity event, funny enough, hosted by my younger brother, Marcus. He was the golden boy of the family. The one who never failed. The one who got the praise, even when he didn't deserve it. But I didn't mind back then. I thought we were different. I worked hard. He worked crowds. He was charm. I was grit. Nadia and I had been together for 3 years when I proposed. She said yes with tears in her eyes. Everything felt solid. Real. I was building a house for us, literally. It was supposed to be our dream home. Custom everything. Her design input was everywhere, from the tiles to the walk-in closet she made me stretch the budget for. And that? That was fine. Because I thought we were building a life. But here's the thing about building. You can't always see the cracks right away. Sometimes, you don't even know you're living inside a structure that's already collapsing, until the day the whole damn thing comes down on top of you. The first crack. It was small. Barely even noticeable. Marcus started showing up more often. At first, it made sense. He said he wanted to invest in real estate. Asked questions about the renovation business. Wanted to learn. I was flattered, honestly. He was the high flyer, finance, PR, the whole deal. For him to take interest in my little company. It felt like respect. And Nadia? She encouraged it. She said it was good for us to have more family involved. Said Marcus had great instincts. Said he was such a people person. I didn't think anything of it. Not yet. But looking back. That was the first move on a chessboard I didn't even realize I was standing on. Because what came next was the slow, surgical dismantling of everything I loved. It started with a client. A simple kitchen remodel in the suburbs. The kind of job we'd done a dozen times before. Only this time, something felt off. The client, Mrs. Green, called me directly. She was upset. Said my crew had walked off the job halfway through the week. Said she hadn't seen anyone in days. Now, that didn't make sense. We ran a tight schedule. My foreman, Luis, was meticulous. So I drove down to the site myself. And what I found? Nothing. No crew. No tools. No materials. It looked abandoned. So I called Luis. Straight to voicemail. I called the supplier. He told me the last 2 invoices, both for that site, had been cancelled. Cancelled. By someone named Marcus. I felt the air punch out of my lungs. Why would Marcus be touching supplier accounts? He wasn't even on payroll. When I confronted him later that night, he just laughed. Said he thought he was helping streamline operations. Helping? I asked, trying to keep calm. You shut down a job site without telling me. He smiled, that same smooth smile he always used when charm was covering something deeper. Relax, man, he said. You're too stressed. I'm trying to help you scale. And Nadia? She defended him. Said I needed to trust people more. Said Marcus had a big picture mind. Said I was micromanaging. I should have seen it right then. The way they looked at each other when they thought I wasn't watching. Too casual. Too close. But I told myself I was paranoid. I mean, this was my brother. And the woman I loved. They wouldn't. Right? So I let it slide. That was my mistake. Because a week later, I lost my biggest contract. And with it, most of my operating capital. The client said someone had warned them off. Said my company had financial instability. That we were under investigation. All lies. All fabricated. But they bailed. And when I checked my systems, I found something else. Multiple back-end logins, from a device that wasn't mine. Someone had been in my emails. My accounting. My bids. And they were bleeding me from the inside. Slowly. Quietly. Like termites in the walls of a house built on love and trust. And the worst part? I still didn't see who it was. Not until I walked in on them. And saw the truth for myself. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I'd just come back from meeting a lawyer. A quiet man with tired eyes who told me, in the calmest voice possible, you may want to consider bankruptcy. Whoever's doing this, they're good. I didn't sleep much after that. Just drove around, trying to make sense of it all. By the time I pulled up to the house, it was close to midnight. Our house. The one I was still trying to finish. Half the drywall was still exposed in the hallway. The kitchen island didn't even have a countertop yet. But there were lights on upstairs. I remember thinking that was strange. Nadia usually went to bed early on weeknights. She hated sleeping without me there. I stepped inside. Quiet. Careful. And then I heard it. A laugh. A familiar one. Marcus. My brother. I stood there in the foyer, frozen. Then I heard Nadia's voice. Low. Playful. Dripping with a kind of affection she hadn't used with me in months. I walked up the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. And then I opened the bedroom door. And there they were. In my bed. Laughing like they didn't have a single care in the world. Wrapped in sheets I bought. Under a roof I built. On land I purchased for the life we were supposed to share. They froze. Nadia's face went pale. Marcus just stared at me. Then, had the audacity to smirk. Guess the contractor came home early, he said. I didn't say a word. I just looked at Nadia. She tried to speak. Started with, I can explain. But I was already walking out. Down the stairs. Out the door. Into the night. I didn't scream. Didn't punch anything. Didn't cry. I just stood outside. In the half-finished driveway. And let it settle in. My fiancée was sleeping with my brother. My company was falling apart. And every plan I'd made for the future burned. But here's the thing about fire. Once it's done destroying, it clears the way for something new. And I promise you, that night was the last time I ever looked at either of them the same. Because from that moment forward, I wasn't just a broken man. I was a man with nothing left to lose. And that made me dangerous. After that night, I vanished. No warning. No explanation. No dramatic farewell. Just, gone. I packed a bag. Left the keys on the counter. And walked away from everything I built. The house. The company. The city. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't talk to friends. Not even Luis, my foreman. I needed to disappear. Not just from them. From me. Because who I was. That man was dead. I spent the next 3 months drifting. City to city. State to state. I took odd jobs. Construction, mostly. Sometimes under the table. I didn't use my real name. Didn't carry my old phone. No credit cards. No emails. Just silence. And inside that silence, I rebuilt myself. Not just physically, though yeah, I got stronger. Woke up before dawn. Hit the gym. Lifted until my body ached. But mentally, that was the real work. I started reading. Business books. Legal texts. Digital security manuals. I studied everything I should have known before they gutted me from the inside. Revenge? Yeah. It was there. Simmering. But I didn't let it consume me. Because this time, I wasn't going to react. I was going to plan. Down to the last nail. I learned how to trace shell accounts. How to follow paper trails that don't want to be found. How to dig into records most people don't even know exist. And slowly, quietly, I started to build something new. Not another renovation company. No. Something smarter. Faster. Untouchable. And as the weeks turned into months, I started to see the pieces fall into place. But before I made my move, I needed to know everything. Because revenge isn't just about hitting back. It's about knowing where to strike. When to strike. And what to leave them with when the dust settles. So I made one call. A burner phone. One ring. Luis picked up. "Who is this?" he asked. I paused. Then said, "Let's talk." Luis met me in a diner 2 towns over. It was one of those old spots, checkered floor, dusty blinds, coffee that tastes like regret. But it was quiet. And more importantly, safe. He walked in, looked around nervously, then sat across from me. "You look different," he said. Then he paused. "Stronger." I just nodded. We didn't waste time with small talk. I pulled out a flash drive, slid it across the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Everything I've found so far," I said. Marcus didn't just steal my fiancée. He stole my life. Luis plugged it into his laptop. Scrolled. Then his eyes narrowed. Wait, these invoices, this is your supplier. But the payment trail ends in a dummy account. I nodded. Registered under a holding company, I said. And guess who's on the board? Luis looked up. No. Yup, I said, my voice low. Nadia. He leaned back in his seat. That's how they did it, he muttered. Every time I placed an order, someone cancelled it. Rerouted it. Marked it as delayed. You thought we were bleeding money, but they were just siphoning it. And that wasn't the worst part. Nadia had filed documents behind my back. Documents that named her as a silent partner in the company. Which meant that when the debt started stacking up, she bailed. Legally. Leaving me holding the bag. But that wasn't all. Because Marcus. He'd been planning this longer than I thought. Luis pulled up an archived email, one I'd never seen before. It was dated 6 months before the company started falling apart. An exchange between Marcus and a real estate developer. They were talking about land. My land. The one I bought for our house. The message was clear. Once he's out of the picture, the deal is greenlit. They weren't just trying to ruin me. They were planning to profit from it. Sell the property. Gut the company. Move on. Like I was just an inconvenience. I looked at Luis. Can I count on you? I asked. He didn't even blink. I was never loyal to them, he said. Then he smiled. I was loyal to you. And just like that, I had my first ally. The house of cards was still standing. But now, I had the blueprint. And I was about to start pulling. One card at a time. The thing about revenge, real revenge, is that it's not loud. It's not impulsive. It's patient. It's surgical. It's quiet enough to sound like forgiveness. Until it's too late. And I had waited long enough. With Luis on board, we started phase 1. Information. I needed to know everything Marcus and Nadia had been doing since I disappeared. So I started watching them. From a distance. Marcus had taken over my client list. Rebranded a new company, same services, same contractors. Only he wasn't running it. He was fronting it. The real engine. Nadia. Turns out, my ex-fiancée had a head for numbers. She was laundering money through the business. Funneling payments through offshore accounts tied to shell corporations. At first glance, it looked clean. But Luis had taught me how to look closer. We started collecting evidence. Emails. Transaction logs. Old contracts that had my original signature, but modified dates. They'd forged my name. On multiple documents. Including the transfer of my land. They were building luxury condos on it now. Had already secured investors. Half the units were pre-sold. And here's where it got interesting. The investors. They thought Marcus owned the development outright. They didn't know the land was acquired through fraudulent filings. Didn't know the permits were based on forged zoning documents. Didn't know, the house underneath it all still technically had my name buried in the title history. Which meant one thing. I had leverage. But I wasn't going to the police. Not yet. No. I wanted them to squirm. To watch it all crumble from the inside. So we baited the hook. Luis reached out to Marcus, posing as a foreign investor with deep pockets. He set up a meeting. Promised big capital. Said he was looking to expand into American development. Marcus, being Marcus, jumped at the chance. The meeting was booked. 2 weeks out. Private golf course. Discreet location. And me? I had just enough time to prepare the second phase. Because while Marcus was chasing fake millions, I was about to turn his own investors against him. One by one. And Nadia? Oh, Nadia. She had her own surprise coming. But I'd save that for the wedding day. Because yes, they were getting married. And they had no idea. I'd already RSVP'd. 2 weeks. That's how long I had before the golf course meeting. 14 days to flip the script. So I became a ghost with a purpose. I started visiting Marcus's investors. Quietly. One by one. I didn't barge in or make threats. No. I left them breadcrumbs. A manila envelope on an office desk. An anonymous email with an old zoning file. A screenshot of a wire transfer that never showed up on their books. Just enough to rattle them. To make them question everything they'd tied their money to. Then I waited. And they started pulling back. Not dramatically. No big moves. Just hesitation. Delayed payments. Requests for additional audits. Legal inquiries from concerned partners. Marcus didn't understand what was happening. He thought the market was shifting. Thought interest rates were spooking buyers. He didn't realize the walls were closing in. Because I was tightening them. And just when the pressure started mounting, Luis sent the bait. A formal investment proposal. From a fictional firm we created overseas. A 7-figure offer, with a 30-day commitment clause. Marcus took the meeting. I watched him from a parked car, across the course. He wore his best watch. His flashiest suit. He thought he was on top of the world. Meanwhile, Luis, posing as Mr. Navarro, fed him lines about international growth, overseas expansion, luxury developments in Dubai. Marcus ate it up. They toasted champagne. He signed the intent to invest letter on the spot. And the moment he did, our plan kicked into phase 3. Because that letter, it included a clause. One that required a full audit before funds could be released. An audit, by our people. Fake firm. Real scrutiny. And once we got inside, we didn't just find fraud. We found fire. Unpaid contractors. Falsified safety inspections. Under-the-table payments to city inspectors. And on top of all that, whispers. Whispers that Marcus had been in a relationship with his business partner before she ever left her last fiancé. Me. The audit team leaked those whispers. To the press. To the investors. To the developers. And in less than 48 hours, the image Marcus had so carefully polished started to crack. And the best part? He still had no idea I was behind any of it. Not until he got the wedding invitation. A custom envelope. Gold trim. Hand-delivered. Inside, a single card. No return address. Just one line. I'll see you at the altar. They say you can tell a storm is coming by how calm the air gets. And that week before the wedding, it was dead silent. Marcus was scrambling behind closed doors. The investors were jittery. Buyers were pulling out of pre-sales. City inspectors were revisiting sites they'd already approved months ago. And the press? They were circling. Not full-blown scandal yet. But whispers. Rumors. Enough to make Marcus sweat through his designer collars. Nadia, on the other hand. She played it cool. On the outside, everything looked perfect. Instagram was full of bridal fittings, champagne toasts, flower samples. That carefully curated image of the power couple. But I saw the cracks. I had someone feeding me updates from inside the planning committee. A caterer, who'd worked with my company before everything fell apart. She owed me a favor. So when Nadia panicked and had a meltdown over the linen colors, I heard about it. When Marcus screamed at their wedding planner in the hotel lobby, I got a photo. Every crack. Every fracture. I documented it all. Because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about exposure. So I planned my return. Not at the rehearsal. Not at the dinner. Not in some dramatic midnight text. No. I saved it for the main event. Their wedding. The cathedral was massive. Imported marble. Golden chandeliers. A full orchestra in the back corner tuning their strings. The guest list. Laced with lawyers, socialites, politicians, every connection they could flaunt. I waited outside. Dressed clean. Sharp. Not flashy. But enough to turn heads. People noticed me the moment I stepped onto the stone path. You could see it in their faces. Wasn't that? Didn't he? Isn't she marrying his brother? The whispers grew. I didn't smile. Didn't wave. I walked straight up the steps. Past the photographers. The planners. Straight into the belly of the beast. And the moment I crossed that threshold, time stopped. Because every lie, every betrayal, every stolen dollar, every forged signature, every fake kiss, all of it was about to come undone. And the best part? They invited me. The music swelled as I took my seat. Second row. Right side. Reserved for family. Funny how that still applied. No one said a word. Not to me. Not out loud. But the looks? Oh, the looks could have set fire to the pews. I sat still. Calm. Like a man watching the final scene of a play he wrote himself. The ceremony began. Marcus stood at the altar. Hair perfectly slicked. Tie tighter than usual, almost like it was choking him. He scanned the crowd once. Saw me. And froze. Just for a second. Barely noticeable. But I saw it. That flicker of what the hell is he doing here? Then, the panic just beneath his skin. I didn't look away. The orchestra shifted. The doors opened. And there she was. Nadia. White dress. Veil. Bouquet of blood-red roses. She walked slowly, deliberately. All eyes were on her. Except mine. I was watching Marcus. He didn't look at her. He was still watching me. And that? That was the crack. The moment he realized, this day wasn't his. Not anymore. The officiant began. The usual. Dearly beloved. Gathered here today. Union of love. Blah blah blah. Nadia and Marcus barely heard it. She was sneaking glances at me now too. Her smile started twitching. Her eyes darted, like maybe this was a dream she couldn't wake up from. The officiant asked the question. Do you, Marcus, take Nadia to be your lawfully wedded wife? Marcus opened his mouth. But before he could speak, I stood up. Calm. Slow. And said, loud enough for every soul in that cathedral to hear. I object. Gasps. Whispers. Phones lifted. The officiant froze. Excuse me, sir, he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. I took a step forward. I have something for the groom, I said. Marcus took a full step back. I'm calling security, he hissed. But before he could move, I pulled out a sleek black envelope. Just like the one I'd handed him in the teaser. Only this time. I opened it for everyone to see. Inside. Photos. Documents. Screenshots. Legal copies. All printed. Neatly arranged. I handed them to the officiant. And as he flipped through, his face turned to stone. Gasps turned into murmurs. People were leaning in now. Seeing the names. The forged permits. The investor fraud. The timeline of an affair that started months before I was out of the picture. Then I turned to Marcus. "Consider this my wedding gift," I said. "You won't be married today. But you will be serviced." Behind me, right on cue, two men stepped forward. Plain suits. Badges. Federal. That's when Marcus ran. Bolted down the side of the altar like a cornered animal. But he didn't get far. Security had the doors. And Nadia? She didn't scream. Didn't cry. She just sank to her knees. In front of everyone. And whispered. "What have we done?" The wedding made the news by evening. Not the society pages they'd hoped for. Not glossy shots of champagne and vows. No. Front page. Headline: Real estate fraud scandal erupts during live wedding ceremony. Video clips flooded social media. Of Marcus being escorted out. Of Nadia, crumbling in her custom gown. The venue released a statement. The officiant refused to comment. And me? I watched it unfold from a quiet hotel room across town. A glass of whiskey in one hand. Phone in the other. Louise sent a message. "They're done." But it wasn't celebration I felt. Not yet. Just stillness. Like after a long storm, when the silence feels too big to breathe in. Marcus was indicted the next week. Wire fraud. Real estate scams. Tax evasion. The whole 9 yards. Turns out, the investors who pulled out after our audit, they didn't just back away. They turned state's witness. The feds moved fast. Documents were airtight. Testimonies lined up. Nadia tried to disappear. Deleted her socials. Fled the condo they were supposed to live in. But the damage was done. Word spread through her circle. The betrayal. The fraud. The wedding humiliation. And no one wants to be associated with a public collapse that messy. She lost her job. Her brand deals. The consulting offers. Everything. She tried to contact me once. A message. Just 5 words. "Can we talk, please?" I didn't reply. Some doors don't deserve to be opened again. Instead, I focused on the future. Because here's the thing most people missed. While they were busy stealing from me, I was learning how the game works. How power moves quietly. How money hides in plain sight. I took what they taught me, unintentionally, of course. And built something better. Something smarter. I started my own firm. Off the radar. Private clients. Discrete projects. In less than a year, I was making more than I ever did with the old company. And this time, no partners. No shared passwords. No cracks in the foundation. Just me. And a handful of people who earned my trust. Like Luis. Who now runs operations. Full salary. Equity. And the respect he always deserved. As for Marcus, he's still waiting trial. Could be years behind bars. No one's rushing to save him. And Nadia? Last I heard, she's working part-time at a boutique 2 towns over. Selling someone else's dream in a shop window. And me? Well, I sleep just fine these days. It's been 2 years. Sometimes, I still wake up before sunrise. Out of habit. Out of discipline. But mostly, Out of peace. See, revenge isn't about rage. Not really. It's about clarity. It's about walking through fire. And realizing you didn't just survive it. You became it. They took everything from me. Love. Family. Trust. And for a while, I thought that loss defined me. But now I see it was a beginning. Marcus is still behind bars. His trial made headlines for months. Every witness who came forward added a new nail to his coffin. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. Corporate conspiracy. He tried to plead insanity at one point. Didn't work. The sentencing is next month. They're projecting 15 years. No parole. As for Nadia, I ran into her once. Completely by accident. A bookstore downtown. I was meeting a client. She was restocking shelves. She looked older. Not in age. In spirit. When she saw me, her hands froze on a stack of paperbacks. Our eyes met. Just for a second. No words. No excuses. She just looked away. And I walked past her. Without a sound. That was the real closure. Not the trial. Not the headlines. Not even the wedding interruption. It was that moment. The quiet knowing. That I'd rebuilt what they tried to destroy. And they were stuck in the ruins. One choice. One betrayal. One wedding. It all led to this. And now, I don't hate them. I don't need to. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's elevation. I rose. They fell. Simple as that.